So here we are at Apollina in Albania, near Fier, and you can see it there behind us. And we just finished Thanksgiving, and it's currently Hanukkah, and um, Christmas is coming in a few days, and it's my dad's birthday tomorrow or in 2 days, and it's Shannon's birthday yesterday.
No, currently still.
So I guess I'm thinking about family and things that we're thankful for and like gifts, and I was wondering, we're both younger siblings, you and I, and I kind of had the thought that Shannon and James are both older siblings, and my parents are both younger siblings. And I was wondering, what about your parents? They're both.
Mum's the eldest and Dad's the youngest, both out of 4 kids, so quite on the opposite end of the spectrum.
So I guess I was wondering, this isn't a question, this is like a hypothesis, if there's maybe like some correlation between like our parents' experience as being a youngest or oldest or middle or whatever, and like the experience that the kids have being the youngest and oldest or only or whatever. And so I was wondering, maybe this isn't directly this then that thing, but like because it's like a time to be appreciative of things, I thought maybe it would be nice if you could think like, well, what's something that, like, a lesson learned from your older brother, your only brother, that like you'd want to teach a kid.
Okay.
If we had a kid that was like an older sibling, or just a person, but like a good thing that older sibling seems to learn.
Oh, that's tricky. I feel like I'd have to really delve back into some like childhood memories or something. But I guess my gut instinct, like of a response, is that maybe it's more of a general nature, like maybe just the confidence to go forth into the world and like do something that you're passionate about or excited about, and that it's okay to be excited about particular things even if nobody else is. I think that's something that maybe it took me a long time to learn it, actually. Like, I don't feel like I'm barely beginning to learn that lesson, but the lesson was always there for me to follow, if that makes sense. Like, I think there's some confidence that firstborn children have, that the world is their oyster or something, and they can just go forward and do whatever they like. Whereas I think as a second child, there's always this sense of comparison, and I was always defined as how I was distinct from an older sibling, or how I was similar. It was always this comparison, like, oh, are they similar in these ways or different in these ways? And neither was bad, or good. It was just it was always a sense of comparison, whereas an older sibling had, 5 years and was reaching all the milestones 5 years and ahead, to be able to just, find his way, whatever that was. And the only sort of reference point was maybe our parents, because there was no one before him. So I think he was genuinely able to sort of find where his interests lay and pursue them without too many other influences, whereas like a younger sibling might always be either trying to distinguish themselves from this older sibling or follow in their older sibling's footsteps. There's always a reference point.
So if there was like an only child,
Yeah.
is there anything special to do when having that only child to make sure that they get that positive experience of feeling the world is their oyster?
I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe naturally an only child will feel that way. I mean, maybe that's only something, that lesson is only relevant to second children. So maybe it's not a good answer to your question. So I don't know what you would teach an only child that only an older sibling could teach, because I feel like an only child is an older sibling because they, don't have to learn the lessons of an older child. But maybe there's some lesson in how, like maybe something I taught my older sibling by having a younger sibling. And I don't know what, but I don't know, I can't think of what I would have taught my brother, for example, other than maybe like some patience or, a sense that, there's other people in the world or other people to share with. And it's not all about them. And I think that would be the main lesson that I would be concerned with teaching an only child.
Mm-hmm.
Having a sense that the world doesn't revolve around them, and that there's other people and other considerations that are equally as important as their own. What about you?
What about me?
Well, what have you learnt from an older sibling that you would want to instill in an only child?
What have I learned from an older sibling? I guess maybe Noah, my older sibling, maybe he kind of had things tougher than I did because he had to be a trailblazer.
Right.
So maybe like understanding that like things that might seem like simple or straightforward or easy decisions to me as a second,
Yeah.
to an older it might be really challenging or more challenging, because there's no person for him to look to. We have cousins,
Yeah.
but I could just be like, oh,
Well, how did Noah do it?
yeah, how did Noah do that? So maybe the lesson would be to like acknowledge that there's no role model and the challenges, and to like extend extra compassion towards those kinds of challenges, which I think as a second in that I'm just generally I'm not particularly generous in terms of like uh, people not knowing what to do or doing like something silly when they could do something wise.
Hmm.
Uh, but maybe that through the lens of like being a younger, that that makes sense. But from the older who has to be like generally more cautious,
Hmm.
that's a bit unfair,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, maybe a child would need more role models in their circle of influence to sort of demonstrate how to navigate different parts of life or different stages as you're going through them. Right, like I always was able to go to school and go everything with like a clear footpath to follow that my brother had like long ago laid the steps for and literally could guide me through that. And I think that distance in age gives enough time to like for him to have become so comfortable with what he did 5 years prior. I mean, like the stage is so far in the past that even he's got distance from it himself to be able to reflect on and judge what was working for him and what didn't work, and all those lessons are kind of like fairly well sorted out. Whereas I think like if a sibling that's still kind of in the midst of like processing those challenges, it might be a bit hard to even reflect on and then pass them down.
Maybe there's a benefit to like I mean this is obvious, but like having people in kids' life who are 2 years and 4 years and 6 years and 10 years
Yeah.
ahead of kid,
Yeah.
so that way they're at varied degrees of distance from the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, like I found it really helpful. I had one or two friends, family friends that were 1 or 2 years older than me, and that proved helpful. And there were girls as well, so that like sort of helped gender-wise how to navigate some other new stages that maybe there would have been a gap because my brother was so far ahead.
Yeah, gender's an interesting component because like I had an older brother, so in some ways we shared a lot of experiences in common, although like specific to our own persons there were unique differences. But if Noah was born a girl or if I was born a girl, how that would have played out.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there would be advantages and disadvantages for being either the same or a different gender. I mean, you get a different perspective. I think, I'm sure there was like immeasurable advantages to having a different gender sibling because he was able to provide some like male perspective, which might have been harder for me to understand, But then it also would have been useful to have someone of the same gender to sort of empathize with my own perspective. So either way, I think you derive some benefit. But yeah, I think it's probably just as important if you're an only child, to have like all these different influences, different ages, different genders, different perspectives, like a diverse range of people in your circle that you can draw lessons from.
Okay, that's probably 15 minutes is probably a good max out.
Okay.
Unless there's anything else you wanted to add.